Hello, hello. Welcome to our Monday Mastermind for this August. It's already August. Can you believe that?
Wow.
Tony, I'm seeing that as I get older, the months and years go by faster and faster. I don't know how that happens.
Yeah. Hey, it happens. I'm telling you, it's crazy.
But you know what? I wish I could go back in time and take the knowledge I've learned over all those years. That would be great to be 18 years old again and have all this knowledge, you know?
Yeah.
Well, welcome to our Monday Mastermind. We've got a great call for you today, or Zoom for you today. We're doing a topic on building your referral network, and I've looked back in my career and I've noticed the top agents that are continuously the top agents as they grow their real estate business throughout the years are the ones that build a really strong referral network, a really strong database that they can mine. And when I'm talking to a new agent onboarding to EXP, I'll go over a business plan with them. And one of the things I focus on is building their database and cultivating their database and building those relationships and helping them to grow something down the road. Because I tell them most companies don't teach you that up front. But if an agent sets up their database and works it over the years, within 5, 10 years later, they've got a massive database that's producing them a lot of business consistently. And that's what we're talking about today. I've invited Tony Williams to come on because obviously he's the professional and senior knowledge person on building a referral network because he's just crushing it. He and his wife Pam are doing so well in their business over the years and have built an amazing referral network. So we're going to have an open discussion today. We're going to talk about referral network. Tony's going to give us some of his things. We're going to kind of chime in and talk about it and then get you to ask questions about what's going on in your referral network and what can be tweaked for your business. So Tony, tell us a little bit about building a referral network. When did you get started building your referral network?
Wow. Way back.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hate to even bring that up. But yeah, we started a good while back. I mean, I'm telling you, probably the best referral client that I've had, this guy Bob. I actually saw him at breakfast the other day. We were out and I ran up on him and back in the I hate to tell you, but Jimmy Carter was president, okay? And the interest rates were like 18%. And I had been studying alternative financing, creative financing ideas. And at that particular time, I was just immersed into FHA and VA loan assumptions, which,
Yes, I remember those. My first
yeah,
house was a assumable loan.
yeah. And I'm telling you, that's an alternative now, FHA and VA loan assumptions, but you don't have the non-escalating, non-qualifying feature in there like you had.
Right.
But this guy walks in the front door and in the office that I was in then, I was at Century 21, just back in the dark ages. And I said, "Man, what's going on?" He goes, I can't handle these interest rates. I'm talking about 17%. And he had just tried to work out a deal. Found out later on that he was the lead in a large company moving into Atlanta, and he was one of the first employees coming in. And I said, "Well, so what happened?" And he told me the situation where he went through full negotiation on a contract, and the thing fell through. And he says, "Do you know any other way of buying a house other than 17% interest rate?" And asked myself, "How much money you got?" And he only had like $10,000, which was unbelievable in those days.
Yeah.
And he told me, and I said, "Yeah, I've got a way where you can assume a loan. Let's go find something." So we found one of those, and I want to tell you, and Pam's on here, my wife's on here. She remembers when Bob Weatherford came through, and he was the front end of about 40 employees. I'm talking about executive level employees in a large technology company that was coming in. So the uh, I was able to solve his problem. Okay. And he reminded me of this at breakfast the other day. We solved the problem. And then after that, while all the other realtors were struggling trying to sell 17% rates with 20% down, I was out there five to $10,000 down, assuming, notes at that time, which were low, which were around seven. Okay.
Yes.
And we in that next year we closed about 40 deals that next year from that one company. Okay. And Bob was the lead coming in. And I want to tell you, Bob was my friend from that point.
Hmm.
And honestly, Bob and I became real close friends, and he taught me, technology and computers, and introduced me to my first Macintosh, and which is Apple computers
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
And we just stayed close friends all those years. Later on, Bob transferred over on the public side, and he wound up being a politician in a local community, actually where we live now. So staying in contact with Bob through these years, he sent me a lot of business through the years. I'll tell you how long I've been in the business. The president of that company moved into town. He didn't care. He was fine with paying the 17% interest. And he moved into East Cobb, which is just outside on the northwest side of Atlanta, which at that particular time was the place to move.
Hmm.
This guy moved in and he bought the largest priced house I had ever sold. Pam remembers. It was $130,000, and he executive in the middle of East Cobb County. Now that same house today is $1 million.
Yep.
But I thought, my goodness gracious. So we just went crazy that weekend after we got paid. I think we made $2,500 on a commission, which is more than we had ever made before. Blew the money on a big old video camera that you would carry on your
I
shoulder.
remember those.
You have to be old to do that. But
Yeah.
the thing is I want to tell you, keeping a friend, not because he's your referral source, but just making sure you stay in touch with people. That's what it's all about, Rob. I tell you, and that's kind of that's and we were out there doing things when no one else, there were people dropping out of the business then.
Hmm.
And Pam and I were just going at it like crazy, and people thought we were cheating, and really all we were doing is we're selling those loan assumptions that I'd studied
You were
and
solving problems. I
solving
mean,
problems. Yeah.
that's what we get paid for in the real estate business is to solve problems, and then you build raving fans when you do that, right?
Yeah, and they tell others, and they tell others, and they tell others. And I'll tell you something else, and I don't want to get in on the commission negotiation side of anything, but people didn't mind paying us full value because of it,
That's
because we
right.
solved their problems. We didn't have to cut our fees because we solved their problems. So
Hmm.
they would send us more and more business, and honestly, through the years, we on purpose tried to stay in contact with people who have used us through the years. And we do a lot of that today through our Google business profile through reviews, and just going back through and making contact with people that we've known in the past. I mean, we had something happen yesterday. I mean, I walked into church, and we're in a large church, and this lady walks up to me and she says, "Did you see such and such property has come on the market over here?" And I knew it was something that the church staff was looking for, okay, for a
Yeah.
ministry they wanted to do. And then I just decided, you know what, I'm going to go talk to the one of the guys on staff, and I went over and I said, "Hey, such and such place has come on the market." And he goes, "You're kidding me." And he goes, "Get me the information." And I want to tell you, one thing leads to another, leads to another. So today at 5 o'clock, we're going out and showing $1 million piece of property, and probably 6 or 7 staff members are out there, just applauding us for putting this thing together. And all we did is make a few phone calls and keep an open mind to what was going on out there in the field.
Right.
Listen, at least listening to people's needs.
Well,
Yeah.
and a lot of times it's about vision. If you see an opportunity that you might help somebody, because people go through life with blinders on. They're going to work, then they come home and they're doing the same thing every day and they're just focused on that. But if you can say, "Hey, look, you look at this over here. This might fit or fulfill a need. This might fit something that you need." That's a great way to get their attention on in that direction.
Yeah, yeah. But That's really how we've done it. We just, you know, we really keep an open ear to what's going on. Pam, what was the thing the guy said last night about returning calls? You remember what he
Oh,
said?
he said he's ridiculously responsive.
Yeah, ridiculously responsive. I love that, because I'm going to tell you one thing. I want to make sure that we have we want people to know us as people that pick the phone up.
Yeah.
We answer, and we return. And so he said he was ridiculously responsive, and I thought, man, I could use that, and do a video on something.
Absolutely.
Yeah, make sure people know that, man, we're gonna be there when you need us.
It's funny because I do a lot of recruiting, right? And my business manager Carlo, he's the one that actually does the phone calls, and he gets the appointments for me, and I go do the appointments, right? Every time I go to appointment, everyone says, "Man, your business manager Carlo, he's on top of it. He is diligent. He doesn't give up until I meet with you." And I like that because and that's a reflection on me. They say, "Hey, if your staff is doing it that way, you must have that same work ethic."
Well, Carlos called me Thursday. Okay. He called me Thursday. He says, "Hey, Tony." And it's like Carlos is my best friend. He says, "Hey, we just want to know, are you guys okay? Are you guys good? How's life?" And I said, "Man, Carlos, once again, thanks for calling me, because he is good. He's good." Yeah.
But so agents should treat their business that way, treat their clients that way, should be diligent about keeping up with them, checking on them, what's going on, how can I help you, what's your biggest problem in your life right now, asking great questions to see if you can provide some value. That's really big in building your sphere of influence and building your referral network.
Right. Yeah.
Because if people see that you're willing to help them, when someone else says, "Hey, how can I get around these 18% interest rates?" They're going to go, "You need to call my guy, Tony. He will hook you up," right?
Right. Well, the other thing is if you can get to a point where people know that you know others,
Yeah.
okay? I mean, I had a window replacement company guy call me last week, and just somebody I had met somewhere, and he goes, "Hey, do you know a mold guy anywhere?" People say that if anybody knows a good vendor, you would know it, and I didn't know the window guy. I mean, I may have met him one time somewhere, and he says, "Do you know a good mold guy?" And I don't mind being that networker,
Right.
because when you're a networker, what that does is it feeds into other business, and just being that source that people need. Yeah.
So I think every agent should start a referral vendor list when they first get into business, and then start building on that referral business list where you're finding good vendors, painting, mold, contractors, driveways, decks, whatever it is, roofing, painting. Find that good, start building a good vendor list so that you can be known as the resource person. So when you're talking to your sphere of influence, when you're making those phone calls, when you're engaging and they ask you, "Man, I'm looking right now, I'm looking for somebody to rebuild my deck. Hey, I got some idea. I got some names for you. Let me get them to you." So you can be a resource. When they know you as that resource person, then they're going to call you for that. And that's what you want, because they will also refer you to their friends and family and connections and business employees or whatever to get that information as well. And that's where you build more clients.
Yeah. And Rob, I tell you, it's probably a mistake, but Pam and I have really never done rentals. Okay. I mean, we've owned, rental houses, and I can tell you stories about that.
Yeah, me
Uh,
too.
but I'm honestly, people will call me up from time to time and they'll say, "Do you know a good property manager?" Yeah, I do. Now, I want to tell you, I never say, "No, I don't know someone."
Right.
Okay. What I do is I say, "Give me a few minutes and I'll call you right back." And
There
man,
you go.
I don't care. It used to be the yellow pages, I just look at there and put my finger in to find somebody, but I would get the answers for them. So property managers, I tell them, say, "Yeah, I know a great one." Now, I never, what you do then is you don't just give them the name and phone number. What you do is say, "Let me make a phone call for you and I'll have them call you." Okay. and I call the property manager. The guy I used to use, his name was John Haas. I called John up. Hey, I got somebody that wants to. They're looking for a manager, and he'll say, "Who is it?" So what I do is I'll do that first call first. It gives me an opportunity to make a conversation, with that property manager. Now, here's what happens when you deal with property managers. If you give them business to manage properties, guess what? They'll call you when they know those properties are going to come up for sale.
That's right.
They'll say, "Hey, you remember those folks out there that you referred to me 4 or 5 years ago? They're ready to sell the property. Are you interested in listing it?" Oh yeah, oh yeah. And you know what it was? If I had just given that prospect John's number, there would have been a private conversation that I wouldn't have been involved in. But making that first call for them to network them together, everything starts joining together when they look for more business that I do for them. Does that make
That's
sense?
building your influence with those influencers, right?
That's right. Yeah, yeah. So stay in the conversation as much as you can. Yeah.
So when we first got on the call, we were talking about building your direct sphere, people you already know, people you've met, and giving them a lot of value so they refer business to you, right?
Right.
Now we're talking about local influencers, people that business owners or professionals or vendors and people that you make connections with, and you provide services or you refer business to them. And now you're building a situation where, okay, they want to now refer business to you to reciprocate that, right? Because they want more to come from you, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, HR managers,
Oh,
human resources, if you can get into that conversation and they're hiring people, bringing them in, that's kind of like at our church, they used to come to me and they say, "Would you work on the personnel committee?" And there for a long time, I'd say, "I don't have time for it." And then one day it hit me, these guys are hiring people. They're hiring people. I need to be on that committee. Okay.
right.
I think I served on that committee for about 20 years. Matter of fact, one of the guys on the committee called me this morning asking me a question. "Do you remember when we gave somebody a raise?" Well, you might think I don't have time for things like that. No, you'll find that the opportunities will come up where they'll contact you when they're ready to hire someone. You know, whenever the time you want to find out about when they're going to hire somebody is when that person is coming to look at the community. Hey,
Yep.
we're getting ready to hire somebody. They want to come look at the community. Will you show them around? Now you could say, "I don't have time." Show somebody around just so they can decide whether or not, to move here. But I want to tell you, if you'll just take somebody to lunch, show them around the community, you may put them in the car and they're gone. But those guys that are doing the hiring, they appreciate that. They'll send you more and more leads, and then all of a sudden you're closing those deals when they're hired.
It's funny, back in the day when I had Remax offices up in Nashville, we were cultivating relationships with business owners in town, and they were hiring people to come in, and we were building our relocation business and stuff. So one of the things that we did was we created a booklet that was chock full of everything you need to know about Nashville, Tennessee, right? Places to go, things to do, fun, what you should, where you should shop, all kinds of stuff about Nashville in this booklet, and it was pretty thick. And we would have it available for the agents to give to business owners, and you put it in the new hire packet when they had clients coming in. Of course, it has our information all over it, but it was great resource for the company because they love being able to give a packet out to their employees coming into town about Nashville.
Right. Yeah. We had a lady that used to sell us ads. There used to be little magazines that they were called real estate books. They're just very small magazines full of ads. And an agent would buy an ad in that magazine and it would print a month later. They spend $400 for that little ad. You remember that?
I remember those. Yeah.
Internet knocked those completely out. Well, the lady that used to sell ads, I work with her today. She's a realtor and I train her today. And she's also the editor today of a magazine called No Magazine, No Atlanta Magazine. And what do? They send out those corporate information packets to these corporations that are moving people around the country. And I told her, I said, "Sherry, you know firsthand who's going to move. There's nothing wrong with contacting those HR people as they move people around the country. And you could be referring people to other cities while you're also receiving people, buyers into the Atlanta market. And just being open to what's going on all around you all the time is just so important.
Another area is like community builders, community leaders, like teachers and coaches and people who have nonprofits or people who have groups of get-togethers and things around town. Just getting to know those community leaders, and they can help guide you to provide a resource for them. Ask the teachers, ask the coaches, what do you need? How can I help you provide a service or solve a problem? Right? We talked about that earlier, and then they will then reciprocate that for you.
Yeah, I go back to that conversation I had at church. The lady walked up to me and said, "Did you know such and such a property is coming up for sale?" How did that start? Well, my realtor association put something out in their newsletter that said we're going to have an event for charities, okay? And we're going to have a thing where they're going to do it kind of like, Shark Tank, where,
Mhm.
you bring in your charity and they do a presentation to the board of realtors, and the board of realtors says, whoever wins this contest is going to get $2,500 in a charitable event. So I thought about, this ministry that's out there with this lady. She takes care of single moms and their families. She tries to find places for them to live, things like that. And they can't buy homes, okay? But I went and through Pam, my wife, and we made a contact where she could be that that charity that presents to the board of realtors. Well, we just created a contact for her so she can make a presentation. Well, yesterday she walks up to me and said, "Did you know such and such property has come available? I wonder if the church would be open to buying that." And that's how that conversation started. So today at 5 o'clock, I'm showing the church $1 million piece of property that they may give. She doesn't know this. They may give that to her for her charity, where she can house those single moms. Is that type of property now? She's all interested in it. That's the reason that she came to me and said, "Did you know that property's coming available?" She's all interested in it. She's networking. And then we're showing this property this afternoon. How did it all start? We told her, we said, "Hey, why don't you bring your organization to the local board of realtors and we can get you on the ticket there to make a presentation." It's just networking is what it amounts to, keeping that open. Yeah.
So let's talk about some other referral partners that might be good as well, like possibly divorce attorneys.
Yeah.
When divorces happen, they gotta sell properties usually. That's a great relationship. Hairstylists, they know everything about what's going on, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And I'll bet you they'll know who's about to get divorced.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you something that Pam and I ran into. We got a call from someone that wanted to sell a large home. Okay, it's
Okay.
1.5 million. And as we were in the driveway, we go way down into this gully where the house was. And Pam looked at me and she said, "Hey, we don't want to list this place. I mean, this is overpriced. The house is in bad shape, sits way down below the road. It's almost like you're having to go down into a dirt road to get down to this $1 million home." I said, "Well, let's just go in and talk to him anyway." Okay.
Mhm.
Now, this is how you keep things open looking for referrals. All along, I'm thinking to myself, we're not going to list this. But I went in and I said, "So just tell me what's going on." And he says, "Well, actually, we're going to sell this property. We're keeping it outside of our bankruptcy." I said, "Bankruptcy?" I said, "What do you file in bank? What do you put into the bankruptcy?" He says, "All my rental homes." Well, how many rental homes do you have? He says, 23. And all of a sudden I'm thinking, I need to talk to that bankruptcy attorney.
That's
Okay.
right.
Well, I found out through the bankruptcy attorney that they wanted to sell everything in one package, the 23 homes. Okay. Well, they wouldn't let me list them. Okay. And I thought to myself, with all my investors, they only buy one, two, or three at a time. They're not going to buy all 23 at a time. So, in a past life that I have, I called an auctioneer. and I said, hey, would you be interested in auctioning off 23 homes that are getting ready to go into bankruptcy? They're going to give us a price, that they'll take to pay these loans off. Of course, the auctioneer says, yes, I'll do it. So we ended up arranging for a meeting right there at a listing where we were looking at one house. We ended up referring 23 homes to the auctioneer, as we said at the table. I just made a phone call. I said,
Yep.
here he is. Here's the guy. Get with him. So here's what's happening now. The auction happened. The bank only approved 11 of the 23. Get this, okay? So the auctioneer calls me up and he says, hey, here's the deal. I said, hey, look, I'm glad I was able to refer it to you. And I had never asked him how much the referral fee that he would agree to do. I just gave it to him, okay?
Right.
He says, well, we do things a little bit differently. And I said, what do you do? And he goes, well, there's a bid price. Follow this. There's a bid price, and then there's a buyer's premium on top of that. I said, okay. How much is the buyer's premium on these 11 houses that you have under contract? He says, 10%. And I said, 10%? And he goes, yes. And I'm going to give you 2 of the 10. Now think for a minute. That's not 20% of a normal commission.
Right.
That's like getting 2% instead of 3%. You follow what I'm talking about? Okay.
Yes.
So Pam and I are getting ready to go to an attorney's office because they're going to do all the closings at one time at one attorney's office and pick up, you ready for this? A $39,000 referral fee.
That's a nice one.
What did we do? We made a phone call.
You solved the problem. You solved the problem.
We solved the problem. Okay. Now the man selling the problem, his problem's been solved. Okay. Now some of those buyers, because we started sending out the link that had the auction. Okay. We started sending it out to all of our investors, and all those guys are excited because they got a pretty good deal on the houses. They bought them at auction. You see what I'm talking about? So it was a private auction. We got a nice referral fee. Actually, we got a full commission at 2% is what we got. You see, we didn't get 20% of 3.
Right.
The full 2.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's almost like we got 60% of 3. You know what I mean? 60% of 3. So anyway, that's what you do is you listen. Now we could have said, as we walked into the door, hey, we don't want this listing, so thanks, but no, Pam and I sat down, listened to the man's problem. And then as soon as he said bankruptcy, I thought, what is this all about?
Right. Tell me more.
Tell me more. Let me see what I can do to help you. That's how you get those referrals.
Absolutely. Well, and also people will ask, well, what do I say to people when I'm meeting people? How do I start this conversation? And you kind of led into that. How can I solve a problem for you? How can I support your business? How can I help you out? What can I do for you? Those are great questions to ask.
You're given 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Best thing to do is listen.
Yep. Ask questions.
Ask questions.
The more you can get out of and it doesn't have to be a client right then. It can be just somebody you meet or talk to or you networking with or whatever. But if you can help find a problem they're having and what you could do to solve it, that's where you get business. And that's what Tony's been talking story after story after story about solving problems.
Now, here's what's going to happen next. You ready on that deal? Okay. So they're selling 11. All right. There were 23 when they started, which means how many are left? 12. Right. He's going to get access to those 12. Okay. He's not upside down on those. They're not in bankruptcy. See, he's getting those where he's keeping them.
Sure.
What? He wants to retire and go to Palm Beach. Okay. So I'm going to go back to him and say, now that the auction's all over, how many of these do you want to list? He's going to go, all of them.
Let's go.
Let's go. Let's get this thing started,
We solved that problem for you. Now let's solve this problem. Let's go.
Exactly. You got to listen, keep an open ear. What can I do to help them? Yeah. That's
another good question to ask is, hey, I'd love to refer business to you. What does your ideal client look like?
Yeah.
So when you're talking to people that own businesses, We talk to people that are running companies. Hey, I'd love to refer people to you. What does your ideal client look like? And people like that. They said, "Oh, well, I'm looking for this and this and this and this." And so you can put that in your notes, in their profile, in your mind to say, "Oh, well, let me connect you here. Or let me do this." And just like Tony said, don't just give them a number. Make the phone call, make the connection. That ties you in the symbiotic circle of getting those long-term referrals. Because that's what we're after here is referrals in a referral system.
Now, Rob, I tell you the thing that I'm doing right now, there's we have a lot of transactions this year because of our Google business profile. And you know that, okay?
Yes.
And
Okay, talk a little bit more about that because I think that's really key in building a referral network.
yeah, I mean, if you go in, like if you have a Gmail account and over on the right side, you look, you see there's different apps there, and that's where you can see your contacts and all that. One of those I found was a Google business profile. Okay. Go in and it'll actually give you the instructions there on how to start it. Okay. And there's a way, and if I can answer any questions for you, like one of the things I struggled with the most was the insurance policy. It said I had to post up an insurance policy. Pam knows this. I mean, I was pulling out my car policy, okay? I was pulling out, my umbrella policy. And finally, I talked to someone who was more on the real estate side of things. And I asked him, I said, hey, what is it they're looking for? What is it Google's looking for when it says insurance policy? And they said, it's your company E&O policy. I said, so all I have to have is a copy of my company E&O. I posted that to my Google business profile inside the questions and answers that they're asking for. And it wasn't long before I was verified. It's got a little screened,
Yes.
a little
Yep.
check mark, and I was verified. Then I found if I start collecting reviews, and honestly, if there's somebody on this call, if you'll give me a review, if you put in the text, hey, I'll do a review for you, it can be a character review. Now, don't say he's a crazy character. Don't say that. But it can be a character review. We don't have to necessarily do business like I don't have to sell you a house in order to get a review. So we jumped from about 30 reviews. We're at 118 reviews because I ask for reviews every time. The more reviews that are happening, and if you collect one like every week, don't do 30 at one time. But if you collect one every week, then Google likes the positioning that you're doing. The other thing is Pam and I will go out to a restaurant. I'll do a review on that restaurant. I'll take a picture of their sign. I'll say the waitress was wonderful, all that. And that helps my Google business profile. Well, what happens is as people start searching for the area that you work in, because you tell the Google business profile, this is the area that I work in, and people will search in that area and they'll say, who's a great agent in this area? Your name pops up because Google liked what you're doing. Okay. They're calling you. How much did I pay for that call? On average, I pay maybe $8. Okay. So, we put an investment in. We went out and hired a company, and I can talk to you later about that. We hired a company. We said, I want someone that will maintain this for me all the time. And I want to tell you, there's been like a, return on investment 10 times this year. Okay. 10-time return on investment. So all I'm doing now is I'm going back to past sphere. Okay. Businesses that I know, like the window company I talked about a minute ago, they're putting in windows. And I just asked them, hey, would you do a review for me? I'll do a review for you. Okay. And they go, yeah, we'll do that. If I see a business that has a Gmail or a Google presence, I'll say, hey, let me do a review for you. Now, I asked them, can I do a review for you? You do a review for me. Okay. We'll trade reviews. And then the more reviews that you get, the more the phone's ringing where people are wanting to list and sell their homes, you see, or people are calling saying, we want to buy something. And we've had, I want to say we're close to 15 closings this year already just from our Google reviews. This
That's
year,
amazing.
yes, amazing. It's been great. Yeah. So while some people talk about how things have been slow, I mean, it's been an incredible year for us just through our Google calls. Yeah. Yeah.
Nice. Well, I think every agent should immediately set up their Google
Yeah.
page and Google My Business and get things rolling as soon as possible on that side of the business.
Yeah, yeah. And if you want to know if I can answer a question for you, like if you get stuck, you know, one of the things is we work in a company where we don't have a physical office. Like I'm sitting right now in my home office, okay, talking to you. And there was a way to register my business address on Google without people coming to my house, knocking on the door, wanting to buy a house. You see what I'm talking about? I want them
Right?
calling me. I don't want them knocking on my personal door, you
Right.
know? So there was a way to set up my address. Now it was crazy because I had to do about a 1 minute video showing things in my house, showing that I was doing business, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, just give me a call. I'll be glad to help you with it any way I can. But it's been real good for us. Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, if anybody has comments they want to comment on how they're building a referral business, how they're building their database, how they're connecting with people, what's working in your market, then open up your mic or raise your hand and let's get your comments on here. Who has a great story about how they've connected with somebody and built a referral out of that? Anybody have anything? Tony, got your hand raised.
Yes, sir. One thing, and I always suggest people do this, whenever you go to any sort of event, network with people.
Hmm?
I have gotten more business from networking events and talking to people than I can tell you. It's such a great thing. Whether, I just can't believe it. One, I met this guy, he was in North Carolina. He gave one of his friends called him, said, "Hey, I got a friend who's got a brother-in-law that's having trouble in the Chicago area. Do you know anyone?" He's like, "Yeah, here's my friend Tony." Gave him my number. Didn't even call me or let me know. This guy calls me out of the blue. We had a nice little 5-minute conversation. I asked him where the house was. He was like, "I don't know." And I said, "Well, put me in touch with the guy." And, I talked to the guy and he said, "Yeah, here's the address of it." And I said, honestly, that's a place where it's a little too far from my house. But I ended up, it was more of an investor deal, but I ended up wholesaling it. And I made over 11, it was about 11.5, I think, off of maybe 30 minutes of phone calls. And I took one drive up there, took a look at the house, and actually 2 drives up there because the one I looked at it and the other I brought another investor up there with, looked at it and had a contract. And it's great. Whenever you go places, keep talking to everyone you meet. Don't just, think, "Oh, I don't want to talk to this guy," or even if they're from a different state, talk to them, because you never know where that business is going to come from and what you can get out of it.
Hey,
Yeah.
quick question. When you're at an event, at a network event, what's your opener? What do you talk to them about? What's your first line of conversation?
Well, how I do it is I just, "Hey, how you doing? Where you from? My name's Tony," and I give my 30-second elevator pitch, honestly. And all it is, I'm a licensed real estate broker with my brokerage. I'm also an investor. I buy properties, I flip, I rehab, and I hold rentals. And people, they tend to like it, and we start talking, and you never know.
Yeah, I tell you, it all comes down, you don't want to be a secret agent. If you're an agent and you stay at home all the time, no one knows what you do, there's no reach out, that means you're a secret agent. You don't want to be a secret agent. You need to let the whole world know what you're doing. I mean, I wear logo shirts, I wear a logo hat. I'm sitting here looking at a hat right now that's got, my name and my wife's name on it with our logo on it. People know what we do. And it's real important. Like a lot of people go to these business network, things, the BNI chapters, things like that. The most important thing is to get into a referral circle, you might say, your environment. Pam and I just moved to a new town a year and a half ago. We really don't know anyone over here. We'll go to a restaurant. No one really knows us. But when our daughter and son-in-law walk into the restaurant, you think the mayor just walked in. You know, I mean, it's unbelievable. They're high-fiving everybody and doing all this kind of stuff. And they talk to everybody that walks in front of their house, you know. They know everyone's name. Guess what? People know. They don't have to say, "Hey, we're realtors. Hey, we sell houses." They don't have to. People just know what they do, you know. And don't be a secret agent. Make sure that you get out and let the whole world know what you're doing. And you can do it just by being a friend. You can do it just by meeting a need. You know, being there when somebody's going through something, just showing up, it's so important to do that.
I know when Kim was first building her business in Nashville, one of the biggest things we did was go to restaurants and get to know the owners of the restaurants and get to know the staff of the restaurants, and then the nail shops and get to know the owners and the staff. And she built a big business in the Vietnamese community just by going to the restaurants and nail shops and building that connection. If you have a choice of going to a local establishment versus a national chain, I'd choose the local establishment, because now you're helping out the local business owners and they get to know you, and you can say, "Hey, how can I help you? What can I do for you? What are you needing in your business?" That kind of thing.
Yeah, good stuff there. So, a lot of this just has to do with offering, excellent service, you know, and returning the phone call right away.
Mhm.
You get the reputation that you care about what you're doing, and finding any way you can to make a communication as quick as possible. When you start closing deals smoothly, people will tell other people about what you're doing, and they'll recommend you, it's just a matter of making sure that people know what you're doing and that you're doing a good job for them. Yeah.
Hey, Melvin. I see Melvin on here. I don't know if he's doing something else, but hey, what's it like out in
I mean,
California building your referral business out there?
pretty much everything that you guys have just shared. One of the things I still teach that works is the 3-foot rule, which is
Yeah.
talking to anybody that's within 3 feet of you. Tell them what you do. Ask them if they know anybody that might be interested in buying, selling, refinancing. That never goes away. And also, I dealt with a lot of beauticians, beauty shops, having meetings with the group, because that's a cash business. And a lot of times they're not really uh, putting money in the bank like they should. So we show them, put the money in the bank, because they may not qualify with the bank statements, but we do have some statement loan programs that they qualify for. Also, bail bondsmen. Never thought of this. I'm also licensed with loans, so they a lot of times they end up selling a house, or the client end up selling a house or refinancing the house. So that is a group
I
that
have never thought of that. Bail bondsmen, they sometimes they have to go after their money
right, right.
and they end up having to sell a house.
Right.
Oh, wow.
They are.
I know a place I'm now
I get
calling it
tons of
this
money.
afternoon.
Yeah,
Tons
that's
of
a
deals
good
from
one.
even car dealerships. When you're dealing with the finance people, they are qualifying individuals for loans, but we can also do the same thing. Any professional, we do presentation at hospitals for nurses. To have a room to do a presentation about home ownership. And once you get one or two, then they're going to refer you to all the other people. Anyone in the group that you're working. For instance, I just said car dealers, firemen, police, attorneys are excellent. I have a probate attorney that refer business to me all the time. So I refer business to her, she refer business to me. But the same thing with
Mhm.
bankruptcy attorneys, divorce attorneys, as well as real estate attorneys. So they're a great source. You may want to go to one of their conventions and get a few names and develop some relationships with them. And over time, you start getting some business.
Very nice.
Yeah, I like the idea, of asking someone, what does your ideal client look like? What are you looking for? And referring business to them, they'll start referring business to you, you know.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Don't be afraid to wear the logo. I
That's
tell you,
right.
My dad told me years ago, I was a Remax broker for 33 years, and then I worked for him at Century 21 before that. And he asked me one time, he says, don't you think wearing the gold coat at church is a little bit too much while you're taking up the offering?
I was
Oh,
I was with Century 21 too in the beginning of my career.
yeah.
I love wearing that gold coat
Yeah.
for at least for a couple years.
I had about 10 different versions of the gold coat, but I wore it every day and people knew what I did. I remember one time there was a new
Yeah.
gym that opened up in town, a basketball court, and I had a big banner put up. This is when I was at Century 21, and I said, one day when you think about real estate, you'll think about Century 21, and when you think about Century 21, you're going to think about Tony Williams. I put that big banner up there in that gym and paid to have it put in there. And honestly, all it said is when you think real estate, you're going to think Tony Williams.
Mhm.
And that's what you want to do is make sure they think about, what you do for them and do for others, when you're doing the business. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. Good stuff. Yeah.
I see Tracy Wiggins is on here, and she is a mover and shaker all over town. And I don't know if she's available to open her mic and tell us what she's doing to create a referral network, a referral business.
She's in Tennessee and Atlanta.
And Atlanta, that's right.
Yeah.
She may be doing something different, so that's why I didn't want to completely put her on the spot.
You surprised her.
Right? But no worries. Hey, does anybody else have a question for Tony or want to tell a story about how they built a referral network? Or a question about building a referral network, how to get started? Anybody have any questions?
Actually, I got one for Melvin.
Yeah.
How are you getting the probate attorneys to contact you or call you back? I'm working them, but it's a real struggle to try to get through the door at the gatekeeper for me, from what I'm noticing.
Yeah, you just have to be consistent with it. Try to set up an appointment, but the best way to get them is to bring them a transaction, somebody that needs a probate attorney. That's the best way.
Yeah, unfortunately,
So,
I don't know too many people who are dying, to where I can do that. But I'm, because I do a lot of things on the other end where I'm more of an investor first. So I'm trying to get in through the door as being an investor to buy the property from them instead of getting them to list the house first.
Yeah, they also have their meetings that they attend, and you might want to be there. Maybe even sponsor, so like conventions or little side meetings that they have. That's
like be a vendor at one of their conferences?
Be a vendor. And
that's a great thing to,
one of their
great
events.
idea. Thank you, Melvin.
Fantastic. Anybody else have any questions? Well, this is a fun. What's that?
It's all about connections, not transactions. It's all about making connections with people. Yeah.
And building that relationship, solving problems for people. That's where you build that long-term business, long-term repeat business.
That's right. But
the number one thing is you have to start your database and you have to consistently communicate, talk to, and build a relationship with your database. That's one thing I see agents not doing. They're always after the next deal instead of building their relationship in their database. And that's the first thing I tell agents when they come on is start their database, start building their database, start communicating with your database as you're building and growing your business from day one.
Yeah.
Well, this is a great topic. We learned a lot.
Been good.
Hey, if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to Tony and Pam or myself, and we'll be happy to walk you through it. But go out there and figure out how to solve problems. I think that's the biggest key is if you can solve problems for people, then they're going to be your loyal fans.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, just remember, if you're thinking about Atlanta, I don't know if you can see this or not. You probably can't see it, can you?
There it is. Yes, yes, yes.
I'm the greatest of all time.
I love it.
Okay.
That proves if you stay in real estate long enough, you can be great, right?
That's right. You'd be great at something.
Hey, thanks everybody for coming on this week's Monday Mastermind. We have another great one coming up next week. We will see you on next week's Mastermind, 12 o'clock noon next Monday.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Rob.
Tony, for all your help. Thanks, Melvin, and everybody, Tony, and everybody who commented. But thank you, guys. We will see you next week.
All right.
Bye.
Have a great week.
All
You
right.
too.
Thank you.